America, Happy New Year and welcome back inside the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham and it feels great to be back in the saddle with Rod Martin and Dean Owen. We're brought to you by the Freedom Chamber online at freedomchamber.net, the Pro-American Business Network. Thanks for being a part of it. If you know somebody that needs to join, have them do it today. freedomchamber.net. 2026 has come in with a big bang. And Rod, I've been itchy to hear your thoughts on this. Take it away, sir.
Well, the biggest bang coming is the economic boom we're going to be seeing growing and snowballing as we proceed through the year. The tax cuts are in place now. The permanence in planning that people get from the big, beautiful bill is in place now. People can actually allocate resources according to some kind of stable game plan and rule book. That's extraordinary. Add to that $18 trillion in new investment from overseas into American manufacturing, into AI, into all kinds of things crucial, not only to the American economy as a whole, but to great new jobs. And it's going to be transformative. And you're going to start really seeing that take effect late in Q2, right around July 1. Now, the big bang that just happened, of course, is Venezuela, where Maduro invited Trump to come. He said, "I'm here waiting for you, you coward." So Trump said, "Your terms are acceptable." And now Maduro and his wife, who's the real brains of that gang, are sitting in cells in New York City awaiting trial. They won't just get tried there. Ron DeSantis is going to try them on state charges here in Florida as well. So they're not going to see the outside of a cell for quite some time. What does that do in Venezuela? Well, you'll notice we didn't invade. We don't have 500,000 troops on the ground in Venezuela. What we have is a terrified socialist narco regime that is perfectly well aware that they're next. If they don't play ball, they're the next ones in a jail cell. Maduro is on trial for conspiracy. Guess who the co-conspirators are? So they can either play ball and eventually, say 6 months out, transition to a freely elected government, or they can join Maduro. That's a big deal in Venezuela. Venezuela has all reasonable potential of being the richest country south of our border. There's no reason it shouldn't be. There is a reason it isn't. It isn't because of a generation of socialism. That's about to come to an end. What does this do globally? Globally, this puts the shadow fleet at extreme risk. And you saw today, Donald Trump just captured a Russian-flagged oil tanker that was trying to do sanctioned business with Venezuela. This is the big play. If Russia can't count on oil receipts through its shadow fleet, it can't maintain the war. This is direct pressure on their ability to continue. Putin's going to have to come to the table. It puts the hurt on the Chinese. It puts the hurt on the Iranians who are coming apart at the seams because they're depending on that same shadow fleet to ship their oil to the primarily Chinese buyers. China is picking up 90% of their oil, and if that goes away, they don't have any money. They're gone. So every part of the world is affected by this one play that took less than 2 hours and cost 0 American lives. And that is the big bang of 2026 more than anything else. You're going to see Donald Trump repeatedly doing one amazing short, sharp application of American power that results in a cascade effect that puts Americans first.
Love every part of that. And God bless our military men and women for making all of that happen. And God bless President Trump for the courage to make it happen. Dean Owen, 2026, in your perspective, I'm sure you've got a bunch of homework you're working on because of the new big, beautiful bill and everything that comes with it. And your clients and future clients have want to take in full advantage of it.
Yeah, there's a lot. And like Rod pointed to, making things permanent, giving us permanent bonus depreciation, permanent 179, and giving security and giving some ability to plan longer term is amazing. We're going to see uh, probably tax refunds about $2,000 higher than average. Those typically are starting to hit in March and April. So we just saw some reports. The housing market had a really good run the last couple months, and interest rates have dropped a little, but there's some talk about the housing market coming back. And what Rod and I talked about, when you deport 2.5 million people, you free up a whole lot of homes and they're typically lower income homes. So that's where the shortage has been. And so that's coming online. There is going to be a one big beautiful bill 2.0. Don't have a whole lot of details on it yet, but I actually spoke with an advisor to President Trump and Elon Musk last week, and he gave me some assurances that it's going to be big. I won't call his name because I don't want to put words in his mouth, but lots of additional tax cuts, uh, getting rid of the NFA, so and being able to buy suppressors. Um, Elon Musk is coming out with a battery in 2028 that will never need charge and will charge, well, it will stay charged longer than a human life and use up spent nuclear fuel encased in man-made diamonds. I'm sure they're going to be very expensive initially, but then the cost will start to come down. So he's all in. This president's all in on whatever's going to work. And the battery technology hasn't really been there to make a useful impact for a lot of people. It's going to get there at some point. I think we're still going to be using oil for the next 50 years. You know, there's too much. You think how much energy density there is in a gallon of diesel fuel. It'll move an 80,000 pound truck about 7 miles. That's amazing. You're not going to replace that with wind and solar. So um, we probably have to use oil and natural gas to charge those batteries. Um, but you think about the idea of just never having to put fuel in a tank or charge up a vehicle anytime you want to go. It's pretty amazing stuff coming. I think a lot of this is going to be timed around the midterms because when do we see this boom happen? When do we see it start to really, unemployment start really falling? Probably right at the end of tax season, April 10, May timeframe, which sets up a really nice economy for the midterms. Um, this president, he just works on so many different levels at one time. If he can't check 6 or 7 boxes at once, he's not doing it. Yeah. And I'm extremely optimistic. I don't like the way the bill was done because it's just got a whole bunch of bolt-ons. It's not a real good free-flowing system, and there won't be any more tax returns done on a postcard. So, but that's good. It'll be a good thing for America.
Absolutely. And what I always like to do is we're recording this on January 7th in the afternoon. I always like to look at your guys' batting average. And I go back and watch some of our episodes we recorded into 2025, and your batting averages are Hall of Fame material, guys. With everything you've said that has come into life, and you get this economy really humming, as Rod, you just talked about things in Q1, late Q1, Q2, and all the fraud that is now being uncovered via Nick Shirley up in Minneapolis that really has become a domino effect to where now you've got the federal government involved, and now you've got people thinking, what else is out there? Illinois, be on watch. California, be on watch. Rod, your thoughts on all of this, because it's billions and billions and billions of your tax dollars being put to really bad use.
Look, an atomic bomb just went off under Tim Walz,
Yeah.
and he'll be lucky to stay out of prison. He's probably headed straight there. The truth of the matter is that welfare in Minnesota is the #1 global funder of Al-Shabaab, the Somali Al-Qaeda affiliate. Now, think about that for a second. You are directly funding Al-Qaeda through Tim Walz's Minnesota. And that's the tip of the iceberg, as we saw at USAID. USAID had a bigger budget than the CIA and the State Department combined and considered itself 100% unaccountable. When the Senate committee reached out to them in 2024 and said, we need you to come testify, we need to exercise our oversight role, the head of USAID told Senator Joni Ernst, We don't answer to you. We are charitable in nature. We don't have to do anything you ask. Okay, this is absurd. This is 100% tax dollars. And it turned out that most of those tax dollars were going to color revolutions, to advancing the LGBTQ agenda globally, to actually holding up companies like Politico and even indirectly Christianity Today here in the United States, pushing a Democrat agenda everywhere on earth, again, with your tax dollars. So I think what we're about to find, and Elon Musk completely agrees, is as we get into California and New York and Illinois and several of these other states, we're going to find fraud that makes Minnesota look like nothing. And we're also going to find that the reason that the federal government is so ridiculously out of control in its spending, the reason these programs are so big, the reason that they have less and less accountability by the year, and the Democrats constantly remove more and more accountability from them, the reason is the entire purpose of those programs is the skim that the Democrats have been taking off the top of all of them.
Amazing stuff. I when that bombshell went off in Minnesota over the course of during the holidays and right after the new year, and to see what's being unearthed so far is absolutely disgusting. And I hope that they find everybody and everyone responsible for it. I hope they're put on trial. I hope they're jailed, each and every one of them. And as you said, Illinois, New York, and California, it will make Minnesota look like a preschool, which they really don't exist. Daycares and preschools really don't exist in Minnesota. So we know how that goes. Dean, your thoughts on this and just the whole ball of you know what that's been rolling downhill ever since the new year.
Well, Elon Musk has said that he thinks that 10% of the U.S. federal budget is going to waste and fraud. Now, if you can cut 10% of its spending out, that is huge for the deficit. And you go right back to this guy as a businessman. If your business is struggling, what do? You get additional revenues with the tariffs, with the seasonal oil tankers, all of those kinds of things, and you cut cost and you figure out how to do it. And that's what's happening. He told us this is what he was going to do. Um, I've got it on very good authority that there are going to be perp walks among very big Democrat names. It just takes 14 to 18 months to get an indictment, and that happens to tie in perfectly with the midterms. I think this president, again, he's checking 16 boxes at once. When you've got a bunch of Democrat politicians running for office and then they've got an indictment and nobody knows if they're going to go to prison or not, it gets really hard to vote for them. I think that somewhere along the way this year, we're going to get our elections figured out so that all the rotten filth that goes on with our elections is going to get cleaned up. The president's talking about that pretty loud. And we go back to the same thing Rod and I have said again and again and again. This president tells us what he's going to do, and then he goes and does it. And so he's made election integrity a huge issue. He's, the stuff that's going on in Iran, it's amazing. He's just checking 32 boxes. I also have a very strong suspicion in the next 3 years, we get greener. And it looks like there may be some Canadian providences that break away. And what does that do for America? I don't know, but there's some really big stuff on the table. And this president doesn't do small. He does giant, magnificently giant projects. And I know these things sound crazy, but watch what happened in Venezuela. And we see the oil tankers being taken. We saw the bombing in Iran. This president's not afraid to do whatever it takes and figure out a way to get things done. So I'm extremely optimistic about 2026. Looking forward to see what's in this one big beautiful bill 2.0. Not looking so much fun to tax season, but hey, that's may not be the best for my profession, but it's best for my country. I'll take it.
It's the season for Dean Owen, that's for sure. Where can people find you, Dean?
OwenCPA.com. That's OWENCPA.com. Jump online, connect with my team, and let's make sure we are disinheriting the government and not your kids.
Fantastic. Rod Martin, the Martin Report. Where can we find you?
rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org. You want to be one of our tens of thousands of subscribers for daily geopolitical analysis that Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. and our several 100,000 followers on X as well. There's a reason they're there, and you should be too, at rodmartin.org.
I subscribe, get it in my inbox, fresh daily. On the
I give
backside of this break, I can't appreciate you guys more of what your insight is, and I can't wait to earmark this. And on the backside of this break, we're going to bring in the president of the Oil and Gas Workers Association, Matt Coday, will join us, and we'll talk about Venezuela and what that means to American workers next inside the Business Pulse.
Hey, the Freedom Chamber is amazing. I'm so glad that we get to be here on the Freedom Chamber's Business Pulse. This is an organization you should support. It's an organization of which you should be a member. The Freedom Chamber is getting important things done in this country. And honestly, we need spaces for people who believe the sorts of things that if you're watching this, you probably do. We have gone through this extended period of not just canceling individuals, but just boycotting businesses and doing terrible things, debanking. Nigel Farage, who is likely to be the next prime minister of the United Kingdom, was actually debanked by all the major banks in the United Kingdom. And of course that happens here, and we get de-insured and all these terrible things. The Freedom Chamber is fighting for you. The Freedom Chamber is here to make sure that you're protected, that your values matter, they count, and they're in the public square. So I encourage everybody to join the Freedom Chamber.
America, welcome into the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham. Happy New Year, the first show of 2026, and it promises to be a very good one, as we've already had great conversation. And now we're going to talk about oil and gas. And we welcome to the program Matt Coday. How are you, Matt? Oh, Matt, I can't hear you. Where'd you go? Can't hear you now.
Well,
Everybody's
it's probably
muted, Mike.
because I pushed the
There you
mute
go.
button. I'm telling you what, my
Everybody's muted.
audio
Hey.
is my audio
No
is as
worries,
reliable as wind and solar.
Welcome in. We've got Rod Martin, we've got Dino, and we've got Matt from the Oil and Gas Workers Association. Venezuela, what's that going to be doing to gas prices? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you smelling out there in the fields, Matt?
A lot of fear just from misinformation. Everybody thinks, okay, well, we're going to bring in 30 to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan crude. So a lot of people, especially in the Permian Basin, are thinking that we're about to go into a bust, and that's absolutely not the case. Look, China was importing sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran, and what President Trump is doing is making sure that America controls the supply, and that China isn't importing cheap oil from Russia, Iran, Venezuela, all the countries that we've really been at war with for 25 years in Venezuela's case. China, we've been in an economic war for years. And of course, Russia is engaged in Ukraine. And so what was happening is that China was buying sanctioned crude from Venezuela and Russia, which was funding the war in Ukraine, and American taxpayer dollars were going to help Ukraine. So we were funding both sides of the war and losing. As far as jobs, look, Venezuela's oil is hard to produce. It's going to take billions and billions of dollars to make it producible. I don't know any other way to say that in layman's terms. It's going to take a lot of capex. Plus, the super majors are going to want a really stable government in Venezuela before they even go back in. Because nobody, take Chevron, for example. Look at what happened to Citgo representatives. So whenever the Venezuelan government kidnapped Americans and held them hostage, then yes, they want to go back in. And what President Trump has done is remove a socialist dictator who was brutal to the people of Venezuela. But it's going to take a while before a lot of those barrels come back on.
So walk me through that. I mean, everybody talked about Hugo Chavez and Citgo, and now Citgo's removed themselves from that. You've got Chevron, you've got that, China utilizing Venezuelan oil. They've been powering their economy for years. Russia, the same thing. What does that do, Rod, on a global scale to China's economy, China's AI, China's war potential with Taiwan? What's that look like, Rod?
Well, you're exactly right to see it as another Trumpian win-win-win-win-win, because there's just no limit to the goodness here. The shadow fleet may be the most important immediate geopolitical ramification, not so much Venezuela as just the threat this is to them. And you see the tanker today is Russian flagged. I mean, the president's just seizing a Russian flagged tanker. And that's just the beginning. We're not
even beginning to get started on this. So that puts tremendous pressure on a Russian government that has to have oil sales to be able to keep pursuing the war. And that helps get people to the peace table. As far as Venezuela itself, Venezuela seized American assets, and we're going to get them back. And we're not going to apologize for it anymore. You hear the predictable characters online going, no war for oil. Well, I'm sorry, they stole our stuff. We're getting it back. And it was not in any way an exploitative situation. You always hear about these evil robber baron American companies doing these terrible things. But the truth is, that was a 50-50 split. And if I were out in Midland and I owned a tract of land that had some oil under it, I'd be getting 20, not 50. So America went in, or American companies went in, developed those oil fields, put in all the technology, put in all the investment, and we're going to get it back. As far as China, yeah, this puts them in more of a box. They are absolutely utilizing Venezuelan and Iranian crude along with Russian to the full. And the more we put pressure on the shadow fleet, the harder it is for them to do. And there's a reason the other day they were talking about investing in the new Trans-Alaska pipeline to ship natural gas. They realize increasingly that the jig is up. The old game is over. And the more dependent they are on us, the less there is a chance for war.
Absolutely. And when you said it just right, with Iranian oil and Venezuelan oil, that puts China in a bad spot with President Trump doing peace through strength. And by God, thank God to our military. I mean, my goodness, to be able to pull off that, and that's what they do. That's what they're trained for. They are the world's best. But it definitely puts stress and pressure on China's economy. And it basically gives President Trump, as he's playing big time 5D chess with a lot of this, it gives the world a better place for us to be able to maneuver and do things that we need to do in the world to keep America safe, first and foremost in the Western Hemisphere. And then secondly, gives us bigger cards to play with Iran and bigger cards to play with China as we're looking at tariffs. We're looking at all this. And Dean, I welcome your thoughts on this from your perspective.
Well, you know, there's all like Rod said, it's win, 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 win. This president does not add, he multiplies. And you know, right now we're seeing the Shah or the Ayatollah in Iran looking at exiting the country. They've got a fairly what appears to be a fairly well developed plan for him to exit stage left because his country's coming apart. And some of the most recent headlines, even from today, was that many of the police officers in the military are joining in the civilian protest. So, you know, if we can eliminate them and get them back to a stable government that is somewhat freely elected, you know, they for a long time, for a lot of years, they were an ally for Israel and a good ally for America. So we had a good situation and went bad. Now, can we turn around to make it go good again? In normal times, I would have some serious doubt, but with this president, I think he probably can. And again, look at what he's doing. He's making decisions as a businessman first. So we've got a deficit problem. We need a revenue problem. Where do you get the revenue? From offshore sources, not from the American people. We cut the American taxes and get the money from elsewhere. That's what he's doing with tariffs. All of this stuff is interrelated into he is a businessman first. And that's how he thinks. And and he told Politico on December 9th, Maduro's days were numbered. He tells you what he's going to do. Now, maybe not for operational security at the very deep level, but he told us he was going to go. And here we are. You know,
And
as
Matt,
far
doesn't this just open up more opportunities and more possibilities for more workers to join your coalition and your association with what's going on in the world now? Especially as Rod said it so beautifully, we now control what we should have been controlling from the get-go. What's that leave you guys in a better spot, right?
Absolutely. President Trump is putting American companies first, you know, which puts American workers first. That's what a lot of people miss in all the noise. You know, in the past, we've had administrations who put foreign companies first, who sold out American workers, who sold out American families. President Trump, I was thinking about this. September 20th of 2023, when President Trump thanked me and OGWA for our endorsement. The last line of that Truth Social post says, "I will not let you down." And there's some days whenever I get a bunch of calls from people who say, Matt, I'm not sure about this. And you know what? We do that because we grew up in this industry. A lot of us are afraid of another 2020, or if you're as old as I am, you remember 1986, that bust, or 1980. And so we've been through those times, and there are moms and dads, hardworking men and women who power the nation and fuel the world, who are worried. Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Is my husband or my wife going to have a job? Are we going to be able to take our kids on a vacation? That's what people are worried about. But at the end of the day, President Trump is still putting American workers first. And there will be more opportunities because American companies will control what comes into our refineries. And that's another big angle on it.
Absolutely. Matt, where can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you're doing and the good work you're doing?
Shoot, you can call me on my cell phone. I'm just kidding. Find us online at ogwausa.com.
I was hoping to get the number from Matt. That'd be interesting to see how many people would call you. Give us that email one more time and that website.
ogwausa.com.
Beautiful. Dean Owen, where can people find you online as we wrap up this segment?
Owen CPA, OWEN CPA.com. Jump online, connect with my team. Let's figure out a way to make sure we disinherit the government and not your kids.
And it is the season for taxes. And Rod Martin, the Martin Report, it's always in my inbox at least once or twice a day, freshly delivered. Where can they find you?
Come to rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org. We produce daily geopolitical analysis that Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. You want to be one of our tens of thousands of subscribers and our hundreds of thousands of followers on X, come to rodmartin.org.
Absolutely. And we thank you all for being a part of the Freedom Chamber. If you have not joined or you know somebody that needs to join, now is the time. freedomchamber.net. It's the Freedom Chamber,
Yes.
the pro-American business network. And we appreciate you guys. Happy New Year. And you've been inside the Business Pulse.
My name is Dean Owen. I'm a CPA. I have a master's degree in taxation and a personal financial specialist. Tax laws are always changing. That's why you need a tax strategist, not just a tax preparer. You need someone to help you pay the least amount of tax legally. Because if your business and retirement tax planning is not tax smart, it's probably tax dumb. Let's fix that today. Call me. Let's disinherit the government and not your kids. That's what my team and I do. This is who we are. I'm a combat veteran, unapologetically American, unapologetically pro-God, pro-life, and pro-Second Amendment. If those are the values you seek in a tax and money advisor, call us. Again, let's disinherit the government and not your kids. We're not afraid to share our values, and we share them with you.